we talk about your water. Penn State Extension, of course, and you're from Indiana, huh?
Yeah, I'm from Indiana. I live in the borough, so
Nice, nice. All right. So Indiana has nice city water, but not everybody does.
right.
So we want to talk about water quality this morning. Our visit is presented by Marcus and Mack, voted the best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 4 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. You can visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Water can come from any number of sources. And we need to have confidence that when we turn the faucet on, that we're getting good stuff.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That can be a challenge in Western PA, can't it?
Yeah, especially for private water supply users. So Pennsylvania has one of the largest numbers of residents using private water supplies across the country. And one of the things that makes us unique here is that we don't have any statewide regulations for, how those water supplies are installed or maintained over time. And so that puts a lot of responsibility on people that use wells and springs and things like that as their source of drinking water.
Yeah, well, let's talk about those. Mostly we're talking, well, I shouldn't say mostly because there are actual municipalities, communities where there is no public water yet.
Right.
And so they're getting it out of wells and springs and cisterns or
Right.
whatever method there is. And for a lot of folks, down through the years, their water has been affected by coal mining, by farming, by industrial uses. There could be any number of influences.
Right. Yep. The land use is certainly one of the biggest things that we think about when people wonder what they should test their water for. So one thing is, what type of symptoms are you experiencing? Do you see anything in your water that kind of looks funny? But the pollutants that can often make us sick are things that we can't see. And so we start to think about, what is the land use around your water supply, exactly like you said. And so in this area, certainly mining historically and sometimes presently is a big thing, agriculture. Even sometimes if your well's in a forested area, you can still be impacted by bacteria depending on how it's constructed. So certainly all of those things can impact how, healthy that water is.
A decade or so, or even more, and it's been a long-going battle. The word Giardia came up, and Giardia was one that it's hard to get rid of, and to, I guess, remaining vigilant is really something we need to do.
Yeah, Giardia is a tough one. It's a really scary one. When people hear that or think they have it, it's certainly something they want to test for. But testing for Giardia is a challenge. There aren't any labs across the state that are actually certified for testing Giardia. Wow. And it's a really expensive test. It involves a lot of water because they kind of filter it down to look for those little Giardia cysts. So our best recommendation for people that might be concerned about having Giardia in their water is actually to do just a simple bacteria test. And if there's bacteria, coliform bacteria in your water, it indicates that there's a pathway for other pathogens to get in. So it's not like a guarantee. It's not if you have bacteria, then you definitely have Giardia. But if you're concerned that you have Giardia and you do a bacteria test and it comes back positive, it's an indication that, other types of harmful bacteria could be there too. It just kind of gets around that, hundreds of dollar water tests. It's a lot cheaper and easier to get that bacteria test.
For a lot of folks, they just, I'm going to treat it anyway. Whatever I'm bringing into my house, I'm just going to treat it anyway.
Yeah, and that can be challenging, right? Because treatment systems are expensive. You have to maintain them over time. We definitely recommend, purchasing treatment systems with some sort of education behind that, some sort of water test that tells you why you're testing for it. So, not everybody has hard water. So water softeners are things that we hear a lot of people having. So you kind of want to know, is there a reason for having a softener before you're going to, spend years of your life buying salt and putting that in your water? Bacteria treatment, same thing. You want to test for it. I think bacteria is a little bit tricky because it can change throughout the year. So it's one of those ones that you certainly don't want to just test it once and then feel confident that it's negative or whatever. But there's a lot of different treatment systems out there. And so a common question that I get is like, well, what's the best system? And the thing is the best system is the one that treats what's actually wrong in your water. And so there are systems that take a lot of things out, but no one thing will treat for everything.
Yeah. The basic treatments, chemical, ultraviolet. That's two. But
then like a physical treatment, so like an actual filter that just filters out like particles. But like when it comes to chemical treatment, we have a lot of different options like softeners, for example, mentioned that's an ion exchange. So we're exchanging calcium and magnesium, the hard parts of our water, for sodium and the salts. We have, oh gosh, there's a lot of different kinds. I have my little cheat sheet here, but another big one are oxidizing filters in regards to iron. So iron's a really big one around here. And there's a lot of different types because you hear about manganese green sand filters and berm filters. And so that's like the problem is not problem, but that's the challenge with recommending, or the reason why you can't just recommend one filter for everybody is because there's like a never-ending list almost of different things. And so definitely want to kind of figure out what your problem is before you kind of just jump into treatment. And we actually offer testing at Penn State. There's a lab in State College, and we have water test kits at the extension office that people can pick up and then ship to the lab. And we're actually lucky in Indiana County that we have local accredited drinking water labs here too. And so we don't have that in every county across the state.
Yeah. But it is really important because you're talking not only illness now, but you could be talking about illness that comes back.
Right.
I think of the Campylobacter.
Oh gosh,
which is a literal killer, but can be a literal killer. But that's something that they say that you can treat now, the illness that is caused by it, but it could remain in your body, whatever that pollutant is that gets you, whatever that bacteria is, and reactivate itself years down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is certain things will harm us sort of immediately, and other things, even certain chemicals like arsenic or lead, like just because you drink a little bit of a high quantity one time, it might not impact you. But if you drink elevated levels over your lifetime, that can, really impact your health. And so yeah, it's one of those things that sometimes it's like people think, oh, well, I just don't want to know if I have a problem. But it's probably better to know and then, do with that information what you will after the fact.
Danielle Rhea is our guest this morning, educator at Penn State Extension, dealing specifically with waters. All right, so the big thing we've been hearing about in the last couple of years is microplastics.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Tell me about those.
Yeah, so microplastics, basically, we've used a lot of plastics in our life. It's in our clothes, it's in our consumer products, it's pretty much everywhere. And those things break down over time and make smaller and smaller particles. And then, everything sort of ends up in our water systems. And so those can be sort of endocrine disruptors, so impact like the way our hormones and things develop. And so kind of problematic. With private water supplies, I think with wells, probably you're not seeing them as much, but it really probably depends on, what's going into your septic system if you have one, and like how shallow or deep your well is, things like that. But surface water supplies, we're certainly seeing them basically everywhere. So.
Are there things that we can do with the digging of the well or with the lining of the well that are going to reduce the chances that we could get some sort of bacteria or other pollutant in there?
Yeah, so wellhead construction or well construction, proper well construction is one of the best things that we can think about, when we're doing it, following some simple steps to preventing contamination from the surface. And so we're really kind of thinking about, our groundwater wonderfully is like filtered out by the soil as water filters through that soil. But when we install our well, we kind of want to do our best to sort of seal off that hole to prevent surface water from ending up in that well without filtering through the soil. So things like making sure we have a casing that extends down to the bedrock and a casing that extends above ground too. So historically, there were a lot of wells and buried pits. We want grout to be around that casing to really seal off that space between the casing and the surrounding soil. We want a sanitary well cap. So there's wellheads or well caps that have a watertight seal on them versus the standard ones that have kind of just these horizontal bolts that provide like a nice little hat on top, but still allow like insects and things to get in. So want to avoid that or replace those when we can. And then just simply like looking at the landscape around it and making sure that surface water is sort of not being directed directly to our wellheads. So just kind of doing our best to seal off that hole and not creating a super highway for surface water to get into the aquifer.
Lining a well is not all that expensive, is it?
I don't know. We don't really maintain like prices of things because it's just so tricky. Like every, company does it different and like from state to state. But I think the challenge is that we don't have any requirements. And so you can certainly save some money by not, grouting a well and things like that. And so we just try to educate people so they know what to ask for if they're getting quotes. So that way, if they're getting quotes from different drillers, that they're getting quotes for the same things, of course. So, and it's one of those things that's kind of hard to do after the fact. So you definitely want to do it at the beginning. And that can be a really big difference for preventing bacteria, certainly, from getting in your well. So.
All right. So as we're thinking about the well water that we're bringing into our homes and we're using on a daily basis for flushing our toilets, washing our clothes, and drinking.
For sure.
All of those things are concerns for us. What are some of the basic things that we should know about the water we're bringing into our house? What are some of the things we should be looking for in terms of problem areas? Aroma, I would assume, would be one.
Yeah, I mean, sure, if your water smells funny. I mean, the thing about things like smells and appearances and the pollutants that cause those things, they're often the ones that don't actually impact our health. You certainly want to treat for them probably because it makes the water kind of unpleasant to use. But the main things we recommend testing for, bacteria, pH, total dissolved solids, sort of as our baseline testing. From there, we really kind of focus on surrounding land uses like we talked about at the beginning. And so, if you have a septic system, maybe testing for nitrates. If you notice that orange staining, you're going to want to test for iron. Something that I recommend people test for, if they've never tested their water before, kind of to do it at least once would be arsenic, because that's one that can impact our health. And we do have some naturally occurring high-level arsenic water across Pennsylvania. So that's another one to look at. But otherwise, like the testing is sort of customizable based on what you're seeing. So certainly if you're noticing odors, if you're noticing staining, so sometimes we notice like blue-green staining in our sinks or that orange staining from the iron, all of those things we definitely want to pay attention to, and then we can, do the testing based on that. Yeah.
So for extension, this is a big deal.
Yeah, this is a big deal. Yeah, we do water resources programming every year. We get grants every year to help with water testing. And so certainly something to pay attention to. We do different educational programs all the time. This is a big program. I mean, it's my big program area, so it feels big.
Good program area.
Yeah.
That's a good program area. All right. So for people who want to learn more, and maybe even speak with you about what they should do, still 465-3880?
Yeah. If you will call the Indiana office, they can get you in touch with me. That'll work out.
Beautiful. Hey, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, this was fun.
Really good to have you with us here today. Come back.
Okay.
It's Indiana in the Morning, and it's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. Fox News, top of the hour, a couple of moments away. Then Josh with us from the WCCS Newsroom.